School horror stories don't begin with screams. They begin with rules. Every school has rules students are told to follow without question. Most of them make sense, some of them don't. And some exist for reasons no one ever explains. This story comes from an old public high school in rural Illinois. The building was built in 1928, back when schools were designed like prisons, long hallways, narrow staircases, thick walls, meant to last forever. Generations passed through that school. Some never truly left. Ethan joined the school halfway through the year. His family had just moved, and he didn't know anyone. From the outside, the school looked normal. Brick walls, tall windows, a flag waving above the entrance. But the moment Ethan walked inside, he felt it. The air was heavier, not cold. Heavy. Like breathing took effort. On his first day, a teacher stopped him before homeroom. "Never stay in the building after 4:30, she said quietly. Ethan laughed awkwardly. Why? She didn't answer. During orientation, students were given a handbook. Ethan flipped through it absent-mindedly until one page caught his attention. Rule 17. If you hear bells after school hours, do not follow them. Rule 22. Do not enter the East Wing stairwell alone. Rule 31. If a classroom appears occupied but is not on the schedule, keep walking. Ethan thought it was a joke until his third week. The school had an East Wing that students avoided. Classes were technically held there, but teachers always rushed through lessons. No one lingered. The stairwell smelled like rust and damp concrete. One afternoon, Ethan stayed late for detention. 4:18 p.m. He sat alone in a classroom copying lines from the board while the teacher graded papers silently. When he finished, the teacher dismissed him without looking up. By the time Ethan stepped into the hallway, it was empty. 4:31 p.m. The lights flickered. Then the bell rang. One slow chime, not the normal school bell. Deeper, echoing. Ethan froze. He remembered Rule 17. Don't follow the bells. But the sound came again. Closer. Like it was moving. Footsteps echoed somewhere down the hall. Slow. Dragging. Not running. Ethan turned toward the exit. The doors were locked. He tried another. Locked the bell, rang again, right behind him. Espun. Adon. The hallway behind him was longer than it should have been. The lockers stretched too far. The lights dimmed, turning yellow and weak. And at the far end of the hall, someone was standing. A student. At least, it looked like one. School uniform. Backpack hanging off one shoulder. Head down. Hey, Ethan called. Are you stuck too? The figure didn't answer. It lifted its head slowly. Its face was wrong. It's too dark. Mouth stretched slightly wider than normal, as if smiling hurt. The bell rang again, right next to Ethan's ear. He ran. He didn't know where he was going. The hallways twisted unnaturally. Turns appeared where there shouldn't have been any. Doors led to stairwells that went down farther than the building had floors. He burst into a classroom and slammed the door. Inside, desks were stacked against the walls. Dust coated everything. On the chalkboard, written over and over, was the same sentence. Class is not over. Ethan backed away. Then he heard it. Scratching. From under the desks, something moved. Small. Too many limbs. The classroom door began to shake. A voice spoke from the other side. Calm. Patient. You missed attendance? Ethan screamed. The lights went out. When they came back on, he was alone. The door was open. The hallway was normal again. Sunlight poured through the windows. It was 4:29 p.m. Ethan ran out of the school and didn't stop until he got home. The next day, he went to the counselor. She listened quietly, then opened a file. How long did you stay after the bell? She asked. I didn't, Ethan said. I left as soon as it rang. She closed the file slowly. That bell, she said, hasn't worked since 1974. Ethan felt cold. What happened in 1974? The counselor looked at him carefully. A fire, she said. In the East Wing, during detention. How many students? She hesitated. Officially, she said, none. That night, Ethan found something strange in his backpack, a detention slip. Handwritten, all. His name was written in red ink. The date was tomorrow, and the location said East Wing after school. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the hallway stretching longer than it should, lockers bending inward like ribs, and that student standing at the far end with a smile that hurt to look at. The detention slip sat on his desk. He hadn't taken it out of his bag. It had been there when he got home, folded neatly like someone wanted him to find it when he was alone. The paper smelled old. Not dusty, burnt. The next morning at school, Ethan avoided the East Wing entirely. He stayed close to other students, tried to convince himself it had all been stress. But something was wrong. The students were quieter, teachers looked tired, and the bells sounded different. During lunch, Ethan sat across from a girl named Mia. She had been at the school her whole life. People said she knew everything. He slid the detention slip across the table. Her face drained of color. "Where did you get this?" she asked. "I found it in my bag." Mia didn't touch it. "Did you hear the bell yesterday after school?" Ethan nodded slowly. She swallowed hard. "My brother heard it once," she said. 10 years ago." "What happened to him?" Mia looked around, making sure no one was listening. "He never came home. Officially, her brother transferred schools. Unofficially, his locker was still sealed in the East Wing basement." Ethan felt sick. "What happens if I don't go?" he asked. Mia finally met his eyes. "They come looking." That afternoon, Ethan left school early. He didn't want to be anywhere near the building after 4:30. At 4:12 p.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Attendance is mandatory. His phone screen flickered, then went black. When it turned back on, the time read 4:29 p.m., Ethan stood up from his bed. He hadn't decided to move. His body just did. He walked out of his house, down the street, and toward the school, like something had taken hold of his thoughts and gently pushed everything else aside. By the time he realized what was happening, he was standing at the school entrance. The doors opened on their own. The halls were empty, too clean, too quiet. The lights flickered and settled into a dull yellow glow. The bell drank one slow chime. Ethan didn't run. He couldn't. His feet carried him forward, past classrooms, past lockers that were now dented and scratched, as if something inside had been trying to get out. The East Wing stairwell door stood open. Darkness spilled out like smoke. As Ethan descended, the temperature dropped sharply. The walls changed. Paint peeled away to reveal blackened brick underneath. Burn marks, handprints, some small, some not human at all. At the bottom of the stairs was a hallway Ethan had never seen before. Rows of lockers lined the walls. Each one had a name scratched into it. Some names were crossed out, some weren't. Ethan found his fresh, still bleeding red paint. A classroom door creaked open at the end of the hall. Inside, desks were neatly arranged. Students sat in their seats. All of them were wrong. Their bodies were burned. Faces melted or stretched unnaturally. Some were missing eyes. Others stared straight ahead, mouths slightly open, like they were still waiting to speak. A tall figure stood at the front of the room. It wore a teacher's suit, but the body beneath it was thin, twisted, and far too tall. Its neck bent forward at an unnatural angle. It turned slowly. Its face was smooth. No eyes, no mouth, just a dark, reflective surface like burned glass. It spoke anyway. "New student." Ethan's legs moved again, forcing him into an empty desk. The desk was warm, like someone had just been pulled out of it. The bell rang. "Attendance," the thing said. It began calling names. Each time it spoke a name, one of the students twitched. Some cried. Some screamed. Some were dragged under their desks by hands that didn't belong to anyone. When it reached Ethan's name, the room went silent. The thing paused. Its head tilted. "You are late," it said. The walls began to bleed. Black liquid ran down the chalkboard, forming words. Class is not over. The students began to shake violently. Ethan felt something grab his ankle from under the desk. Fingers! Too many! Cold! Pulling! He screamed. The bell rang again. Louder, closer. Suddenly, the classroom door burst open. Light flooded the room. Mia stood there. She grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him free. Run! They sprinted down the hall as the walls screamed. Yes, screamed. The lockers burst open. Hands reached out. Faces pressed against metal. The teacher thing followed, its limbs scraping the ceiling, its voice echoing through the halls. You cannot leave before dismissal. They reached the stairwell. The bell rang one final time. Everything went black. Ethan woke up on the grass outside the school. It was morning. Students walked past him like nothing had happened. Mia sat beside him, shaking. We don't have much time, she whispered. It knows you now. Ethan looked at his arm. There were fingerprints burned into his skin, and faintly, under the noise of the school day, he could still hear it. Counting. Ethan couldn't concentrate in class anymore. Every sound felt too loud. Every bell made his chest tighten. Even during the day, the school felt wrong now, like he could see through the thin layer of normal life, hiding something rotten underneath. Mia stopped sitting with her friends. She stayed close to Ethan. Like distance itself was dangerous. You felt it, didn't you? She whispered between classes. The counting. Ethan nodded. It wasn't a sound exactly, more like pressure, a rhythm inside his head. Numbers, slow, patient. They skipped gym and hid in the library, in the far corner where the shelves blocked the cameras. Mia pulled out an old yearbook. Not last year's. Not even recent. She flipped through pages carefully. Class photos filled the book. Dozens of students smiling awkwardly, arms around each other. Ethan noticed something immediately. None of them had eyes. Not scratched out. Not blurred. Just black, empty. Fire safety violation, Mia said quietly. That's what the report says. Electrical fault. Official story. She turned to the staff page. The principal, the vice principal. Teachers? One face stood out. Tall, thin. Neck slightly bent forward. No, Ethan whispered. Mia nodded. He never left. According to town records, the fire started during after-school detention in the East Wing basement. Doors jammed. Stairwell collapsed. Smoke filled the lower levels in minutes. 32 students. Officially, only one body was found. The principal burned beyond recognition, but the school reopened the next year. Same building, same halls, same rules. Mia closed the book. My brother figured it out, she said. The school doesn't let them go. Who? Ethan asked. The ones who die here, she replied, and the ones who don't leave when they're told. That night, they broke into the school. No alarms, no guards. The East Wing stairwell door unlocked hissily, like it had been waiting. The air grew thick as they descended. The walls were covered in names now, hundreds of them. Scratched, carved, burned. Some names were familiar. Former students, former teachers. Some were still enrolled. At the bottom, they found a door Ethan had never seen before. Metal, warped, warm to the touch. A sign hung crookedly above it. Attendance office. Mia hesitated. If we open it, she said. There's no pretending anymore they open it Italiano. The room inside wasn't a room. It was a pit, a massive open space beneath the school, filled with rows and rows of desks, stacked on top of each other like graves. Some desks were broken. Some were burned. Some still had backpacks hanging from them. In the center stood the thing that wore the principal's face. Up close, it was worse. Its body was fused with melted desks and blackened walls. Its legs disappeared into the floor like roots. Faces pushed through its torso. Students, teachers, frozen in silent screams. "You returned," it said, its voice layered with dozens of others. "Mia, escrimeth." The thing turned its eyeless face toward Ethan. "You were marked," it said. "You stayed after the bell." The pit began to move. Desks shifted. Hands reached upward. The walls echoed with whispers. "Present? Here. Don't mark me absent." Ethan felt the pull again. Stronger this time. The counting grew louder in his head. 31, 32, 33. Mia grabbed his hand. "My brother is down there," she cried. "I can hear him." The thing laughed, a sound like burning paper. "They all are," it said. "The school needs them." "What for?" Ethan shouted. The thing leaned closer. "To remember," it said. "To continue." The floor cracked beneath them. A bell rang. Not one chime. Hundreds. The desks began to rise. Ethan felt fingers grab his legs. "Is, wise," pulling him down. Mia screamed his name. He screamed hers. And then a voice cut through everything. Dismissal. The bells stopped. The desks froze. The thing recoiled, screaming in rage. The voice came again. Old, tired, human. Not yet. A hand grabbed Ethan's wrist and yanked him backward. He slammed onto the concrete floor of the stairwell. Mia fell beside him. The door to the pit slammed shut. Silence. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan noticed something horrifying. The counting hadn't stopped. It had just reset. Back to one. Mia stared at the door, tears streaming down her face. "We didn't end it," she whispered. Ethan looked at his arm. The burned fingerprints were darker now. Deeper. Like something was holding on. From behind the metal door, a voice whispered softly. "Next. Period."